threat. I look forward to the witness's testimony today, and I hope we can work together to ensure we achieve this common goal. I now recognize the ranking member, the gentleman from Mississippi, Mr. Thompson, for his opening statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And before I start, let me welcome Mr. Van Epps to the committee. Mr. Chairman, thank you for getting the Secretary of Homeland Security and National Counterterrorism Center Director here today. Your predecessor couldn't seem to get that done, and I appreciate your commitment to holding this hearing. Each day, we've had more examples of Republicans abdicating their constitutional oversight responsibilities. Fortunately, unlike other chairs in this body, it appears that if you are serious about this committee work being done, and I compliment you for that. As I look at the witnesses table, though, I can't help but notice that FBI Director Kash Patel isn't here with Secretary Noem and Director Kent. I'd also say that we have just been provided Secretary Noem's testimony. I've been on the committee since its inception, and I've never had the rules violated where we couldn't get testimony so members of the committee could look at it until today. Today's hearing is supposed to be one of the most important exercises of this committee's oversight jurisdiction. Each year, we hear from the Secretary of Homeland Security, the Director of National Counterterrorism Center, and the Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who is nowhere to be seen today. Maybe Director Patel is too busy spending taxpayers' dollars flying to his girlfriend's concert on the FBI's jet to answer questions from Congress. Maybe the FBI director isn't here because he's afraid of scrutiny from Democrats who want to know what the FBI is doing to keep America safe. Or maybe Director Patel knows that the Trump administration itself is a threat to Homeland Security and want to hide from public accountability. On the other hand, Director Kent is here, which is good because we have questions for him about NCTC's work, as well as his comments about the January 6th insurrectionists he called, and I quote, political prisoners, unquote, who deserve to be pardoned. Some of the people he defended, however, are back in jail for crimes like plotting to murder FBI agents and possession of child pornography. It's scary that these unserious people are in charge of keeping America safe from terrorism. But what's even scarier is that they work for an unserious and unhinged president who spends most of the days designing monuments to himself and finding new ways to hide the Epstein files. All of this puts America and its lives, people who live here, at risk every day. Now, Secretary Noem, everyone knows you love the spotlight. We've seen your commercials, but what you haven't provided to the committee, despite our many requests, are the questionable contracts that you've awarded to your friends to film you on the 2028 campaign trail. Unfortunately, this is nothing new. In their one big ugly bill, congressional Republicans gave you a blank check, Secretary Noem, and you have wasted no time spending it on yourself. Instead of deploying Homeland Security grants to protect churches and synagogues from terrorism, you handed your friends a $220 million contract so they could follow you around the country with a camera. Instead of fully funding the DHS agency that protects our hospitals, schools, and electrical systems from cyber attacks, you spent $200 million to buy yourself new private jets. And instead of paying your way like the rest of us, you're living rent-free in a taxpayer-owned property that is supposed to be reserved for military leaders. Every penny that you spend on yourself represents the blood, sweat, and tears of hardworking Americans who expect their tax dollars to be spent on Homeland Security, not promoting you and your interests. Apparently, you haven't noticed that regular people are suffering under President Trump's affordability crisis. Or maybe you, like him, thinks it's a hoax and just don't care. Either way, such corrupt behavior hurts Homeland Security. But it's not just the corrupt behavior, Secretary Noem, that hurts Homeland Security. It's also your blatant disregard for the law. You cut programs and withheld congressionally appropriated money to prevent terrorist attacks and prepare for natural disaster. You eviscerated the Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, which was supposed to keep DHS from violating Americans' constitutional rights. Within your own department, you illegally fired employees and retaliated against whistleblowers who reported wrongdoings at DHS. And during a shutdown, when frontline employees were working without a paycheck, your press shop never stopped using its social media accounts to push out racist and xenophobic posts. Throughout your tenure, you've diverted resources from critical Homeland Security agencies and programs to carry out an extreme immigration agenda. You illegally ordered people deported to El Salvador, despite a federal court order and Department of Justice counsel instructing you to not do so. You illegally ignored a federal court order and shipped people off to South Sudan without due process. You are illegally blocking members of Congress from conducting oversight of ICE detention facilities, even though federal law demands that we have access. In the process of carrying out this extreme agenda, at your direction, DHS has terrorized, beaten, and detained hundreds, if not thousands, of American citizens. At your direction, DHS has illegally detained and deported American citizens, including U.S. citizen children with cancer. At your direction, DHS has illegally gassed, pepper sprayed, and put their knees on the necks of Americans, including military veterans and clergy. At your direction, DHS has illegally tackled, beat up, and humiliated United States citizens, including senior citizens. At your direction, DHS has illegally tased, maced, punched, and even shot Americans. Black and brown Americans in particular have been racially profiled, detained, and locked up, and sometimes with tragic consequences. It's just one awful incident. A pregnant U.S. citizen was reportedly thrown to the ground, kicked, and left in handcuffs for hours after immigration officers did not believe that she was an American. She later lost a baby. You cannot enforce the law by breaking the law, Secretary Noem. That's not how justice works. It's not right, and it's un-American. And when Congress tries to carry out its constitutional oversight responsibilities, to question you about your department actions, you hide, often with the help of congressional Republicans. Never in the history of the committee has a Secretary of Homeland Security hidden from congressional oversight like you and your department have, Secretary Noem. Our oversight letters to you go unanswered. You owe us by extending the millions of Americans who sent us to Congress as their representatives a response to over a dozen letters. Your predecessor came before this committee regularly under administrations of both parties, but under President Trump, you and other department officials have rarely shown their faces at committee hearings. In the first year of President Biden's term, his administration made 28 appearances before this committee. 28. Under President Trump, DHS officials have appeared only 3 hearings before this committee, just 3. You, Secretary Noem, have appeared before this committee just twice. That's fewer appearances than your predecessor, Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who Republicans lambasted for not coming before the committee more often. It's interesting how my colleagues on the other side are now. Secretary Noem, I'll give you one thing. You showed up today rather than throwing a civil servant under the bus like Director Patel did. But you have systematically dismantled the Department of Homeland Security, put your own interests above the department, and violated the law. You are making America less safe. So rather than sitting here and wasting your time and ours with more corruption, lies, and lawlessness, I call on you to resign. Do a real service to the country and just resign. That is, if President Trump doesn't fire you first. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Other members of the committee are reminded that opening statements may be submitted for the record. I'm pleased to have a highly distinguished panel of witnesses before us today.